Yeah, this one's different.
What if the oil you're running right now is quietly deciding whether your engine feels solid at 300,000 miles or starts burning oil, knocking, and losing compression years earlier? Same engine, same driver, same maintenance.
Wipe it clean first and we dip it back in.
Only the oil changed. And to be clear, this isn't about abusing an engine. This engine wasn't neglected, overheated, or pushed beyond normal driving. This is about what happens when everything is done right and oil choice is still quietly shaping the outcome. And here's the uncomfortable part. If you're running the oil your owner's manual recommends, this might make you uneasy. We tested 0W-20, 5W-20, and 5W-30 back-to-back in the same engine. What we found wasn't what most people expect, and the result wasn't obvious until the very end. Stay with me, because one of these oils protects your engine far better than the others, and one of them lives closer to the edge every single day. Every oil debate turns into noise. Thinner oil is modern, thicker oil is old school. Just follow the manual. But here's the truth most drivers never hear. Owner's manuals are written for compliance, not maximum engine life. They're optimized for fuel economy targets, emissions testing, and warranty averages. They are not written for hot summers, traffic, short trips, or people who plan to keep a car past 150,000 miles, 200,000 or more. And if that's you, this matters more than you think. Now, let's be honest about who this test is for.
We checked it after each run.
If you lease your car and turn it in at 36,000 miles, this probably won't matter to you. If you trade every 3 years, same story. But if you plan to own your car past 150,000, 200,000 or more, oil choice stops being a spec sheet decision and starts being a mechanical one. So instead of arguing online, we tested it. To keep this fair, we removed bias. A modern, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. Tight factory tolerances, direct injection, no tuning, no tricks. Same routes, same oil change interval, same fuel and filters. The only variable was oil viscosity. We ran 0W-20, 5W-20, and 5W-30. Each oil went a full interval with used oil analysis, temperature tracking, and wear inspection. No opinions, just data. Oil choice is always a trade-off. 0W-20 is extremely thin at operating temperature. It reduces friction and boosts fuel economy, but it leaves less oil film when heat builds. 5W-20 is slightly thicker, still efficiency-focused with a bit more cushion. 5W-30 carries a heavier oil film at temperature and stays more stable under heat and load. That difference in thickness may sound small, but inside an engine, it's the difference between metal barely touching and metal never meeting at all. Think of oil film like the space between two hands rubbing together. A thinner oil is like barely wet hands. They still touch. A thicker oil keeps separation longer when pressure and heat rise. That separation is the difference between where you can measure and where you don't notice until it's too late. We started with 0W-20. Cold starts were quick, internal resistance was low, fuel economy was the best, roughly half to 3/4 of a mile per gallon better. On paper, it looked great, but inside the engine, the story changed. Oil temperatures ran hotter, viscosity dropped noticeably by the end of the interval, wear metals climbed. That metal doesn't disappear. It comes from rings, cylinder walls, and valve train surfaces you can't replace without tearing the engine apart. Nothing exploded, nothing failed, but the engine was giving up protection margin every time heat built. At this point, some people will say modern engines are designed for 0W-20, and that's partly true. They're designed to run on it, but running and aging are not the same thing. Here's the part most people miss. 0W-20 doesn't destroy engines fast. It wears them quietly. It has the smallest safety buffer of the 3 oils we tested. That means more sensitivity to heat, load, and real-world driving. 0W-20 didn't fail, but it asked the engine to live closer to the edge every single day. Next, we ran 5W-20. Right away, things improved. Oil temperatures dropped, viscosity held better. Wear metals came down compared to 0W-20. Fuel economy dipped slightly, about 0.2 of a mile per gallon. That's pocket change. 5W-20 feels like progress until you realize it's still playing the same game with slightly better odds. So, up to this point, the pattern looked simple. Thinner oil meant better fuel economy and higher stress. Thicker oil meant more margin with a small efficiency loss. That's where we thought the story would end. Before you decide you already know the answer, pause for a second, because something showed up in the temperature and wear data that made us stop, and it almost flipped the conclusion. When we lined the data up side by side, temperature, viscosity, stability, and wear, one oil separated itself in a way we didn't expect. 5W-20 flows well. It behaves better than 0W-20. It feels safe, but under sustained heat, it still thins faster than oils designed for durability. It protects better, but it's still built around efficiency first. Then we ran 5W-30. Same engine, same driving, same interval. The difference wasn't subtle. Oil temperatures dropped again. Viscosity barely moved over the entire run. Wear metals fell significantly. Bearings looked cleaner. Cam lobes held stronger oil film. Shutdown protection was noticeably better. Fuel economy dropped another couple tenths. Still small, still manageable, but the protection gain was real. And this is where real driving matters. Long highway climbs, stop-and-go traffic in summer, short trips where oil never fully cools. These are exactly the conditions where oil film strength stops being theoretical and starts being protective. After identical use, the comparison was clear. 0W-20 delivered the best fuel economy, the highest wear, and the least margin. 5W-20 improved protection but stayed efficiency biased. 5W-30 delivered the best balance of temperature control, wear protection, and stability. If this were an emissions test, 0W-20 would win. If this were a regulatory checklist, 5W-20 would look perfect. But for real drivers, real heat, real traffic, and real mileage, 5W-30 quietly did everything right. Not the thinnest, not the lightest, just the most balanced. That's why it surprised people. And no, running a slightly thicker oil doesn't suddenly starve your engine, spike pressure, or void your warranty overnight. Modern oil systems are far more adaptable than most people realize. Here's an industry truth. Many engines running thin oil today were originally validated with thicker oil. The hardware didn't change, the priorities did. This isn't a conspiracy, it's how modern regulations work. Fuel economy numbers sell cars. Longevity shows up years later, after warranties end. Same metal, different goals. So what oil should you actually run? Use 0W-20 if fuel economy is your top priority and you change oil early. Use 5W-20 if you want a mild upgrade with minimal trade-offs. Use 5W-30 if you plan to keep the car long-term. Match oil to how you actually drive, not just what's printed on the cap. Your engine doesn't care about regulations. It cares about oil film, heat control, and stability over time. In our test, one oil saved pennies today, another saved thousands 5 years from now. And the scary part is you don't feel that wear while it's happening. You feel it years later when compression drops, oil consumption rises, and repairs get expensive. That's the difference. What oil are you running right now, and why? Drop it in the comments.
All right, smooth stream, let it fill up. That's good. Cap it off.